We're just taking a deep breath in right now and taking all of nature in and having a nice reset. I think it's much needed in today's world. You know, everyone can't experience, the year-round weather, but when you can visit, like Jordan and Mike down in Florida, getting out in the country, getting out of our heads and just feeling it out. Life has so many distractions, and I feel like when we're just staring at a computer screen and we're on our phones a lot, you disconnect. And I knew that, coming up here would be just a nice way to level and balance and breathe in the air with so many trees around us. And yeah, I'm just so happy that we can make it, even if it's for a day.
I know.
Yeah, for sure.
Even if you're a day in nature, it does you good.
Mm-hmm.
Even an hour. As long as you just get out there, be by yourself and listen to the surroundings, it's very peaceful. Clears your head.
Absolutely.
This was a nice factory reset for me, coming from good old Cleveland, Ohio, where all you see is gray and white.
And snow.
Lots of snow.
Yep.
It's getting cold now.
Just
it's like
gray.
-10 degrees with wind chill, and yeah, I mean, it's like a record right
Miserable.
now.
It is a record, but if you have the opportunity to go into nature where it's nice and beautiful, take it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come down to Florida.
Oh, yeah. It just feels so good, and looking at the trees and
Silence.
Lots of silence.
There's too much noise in everyone's head all around. Sometimes you just need to just listen to the silence.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are unable to really
be in their own head by themselves for a while.
Yeah, go inward and like just let the thoughts come in a way where you're just observing them and not like every thought you're identifying with. Because they're like, in the last video that I did, we talked about intrusive thoughts, and like some of these thoughts that come in, they're not our thoughts. It's, a thought that crosses our mind, but are we going to identify it with it? Because, there's intrusive thoughts where it's like, I've been on top of a really tall building, and I'm like, oh, I look over, I'm like, oh, I wonder what it'd be like if I just,
right, if I just,
like, if I just, and I would never do that. But it's like, those are the things and the examples that I kind of go back to, because I would never do that. But that's how I'm kind of identifying, like, what is an intrusive thought, because that can shape your entire day. It can shape your entire, mentality wherever you go, with relationships, with work, anything that you're doing. If you're constantly identifying with these thoughts, then, you're just going to go like, you're just going to be so overwhelmed.
Right. And then you have to wonder, how many intrusive thoughts a day do you have? Is it every thought?
Right.
Or does it just come often, like, at an opportune moment, like a cliff? Like, of course, you're going to have an intrusive thought over a cliff. But if I'm looking at my phone and I have an intrusive thought, automatically, it's like, how many do you have a day?
Yeah.
You guys grew up in, like, a more city, towny area compared to where I grew up.
I was born in a concrete jungle and live in a concrete jungle.
Mike, so you were in New York, so
I grew up in this exact type of area. So you're surrounded by trees, rural area. So in a way, I think when it comes to these intrusive thoughts, I think if you're surrounded by a lot of people or a lot of noise, a lot of pollution, that can also affect how you go about your day as far as your atmosphere, especially when you're growing up as a kid. You're surrounded by people. I was surrounded by trees, so it was a little bit different. You had your thoughts, and that's all you had.
It's like you already woke up kind of peaceful and happy.
Exactly. You don't have to hear all the beeping of horns, all that jazz. So coming from a rural area, it was very nice to actually come into a city area later on in my life, because I knew how to adapt to it a lot easier. Compared to some people that are surrounded by it every single day, or either grew up in it. I mean, when you're in an area where you're not around a lot of people, you grow up differently.
And I feel like too, with that being said, that's where, a lot of people need to show a little bit more compassion for others, because like Mike just stated, like he was not surrounded by so many people and like the concrete world and like just, so much chaos. So when you go to New York City or you go to these cities that are just like,
it's like shell shock.
A lot of people are so angry, and you can tell there's a lot of built up energy within that because of maybe like
tension.
the surrounding.
Well, it's very densely populated too. All those energies, all that
information
mixing.
overload, sensory overload,
words,
light pollution. I mean, smog, all of it, so all the noises.
Like we dealt with something. The other day we were going to the gas station, and there was someone checking out, and I walked up, and he got very disgruntled with me, even coming up to the register, and he was just like, "What are you doing? Like, get out of my space." And these people that generally I'd be like, "Oh my gosh," I'd take it so personally, but I just was silent, and I kind of laughed to myself because I'm like, what, this guy is probably not in the best state of mind. And you have to, in a way, show them compassion because they don't know otherwise. There might have been circumstances in their life that, maybe they were crowded around people and something traumatic happened.
Someone got in his personal space, opened up some trauma.
Right. So it's, holding compassion for people. And, you see all these videos of people freaking out, like they run into someone in the street, someone says something and there's a fight,
and they're having an
episode.
And
these videos are trending, unfortunately, because it's this dopamine hit that people are like, oh, violence, and people don't even realize that they are addicted to
violence,
this violence mentality. And unfortunately not many people are showing the compassion behind, if someone bumps into you, where are the videos at of people reacting to people that do things like that, and they just are silent?
Right. Because unfortunately people like to see the bad things. They want to see the violence happen. If there was a hunky-dory video where all turned out okay, people be like, boring.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately how our mindset is with social media.
Yeah.
Because it's just one entertaining thing for a 5-second thing after another. You don't want to be bored every time you scroll.
Yeah.
We also grew up in an information age as far as millennials go. So no matter what you put on the TV, we grew up with Fox News, ABC News, always saying something bad.
Always. It's never good.
That's the point, because nobody's going to pay attention if it's not hatred, negativity, something bad going in the world. If everything's good and great, nobody's going to watch, which means no money for these networks.
Which is so backwards.
So you can think about it this way. Everybody that's making content, there's different motives, and a lot of these motives nowadays is let's see how dramatic and toxic and fucked up we can make it, because guess what? Money signs are behind that.
Yeah.
It's been that way since we were kids. We just didn't know it because it was our news network.
Right.
Not even taking into the fact too that these videos that we have no context of what happened 5 seconds before the video was recorded. Like, you don't know, like they're always caught in the worst moment ever.
Yeah.
And then it's uploaded and automatically judged. Everyone's bitching. All we do is bitch.
Yeah.
Like, can we just stop? I mean, it's really not that hard. It's more of an effort to bitch, in my opinion, than just spread love.
And that's where like a lot of the programming comes in, like exactly that, like the news. And we were just listening to the video yesterday about how to like get unstuck.
Yeah.
And a lot of what it was talking about was like, if you want to get into the spiritual realm about it, like there are outward energies that are literally feeding on the fear of people and feeding on the guilt and shame that people, have, either committed or that they feel inwardly, and, not being able to express themselves. So it's constantly being in the state of fear, constantly expecting something horrible to happen. And, it doesn't take away that these things actually might have happened, but to constantly live in fear, like people that are just watching the news all the time, they will not have a life. If they're not going out and about, if
you watch things all the time, you're depressed.
Absolutely.
It's depressing.
Yeah. Like some parents are just, constantly just watching TV and, not realizing that like they're just being sucked in. Like, what's it called? The Batman movie with Jim Carrey when he was the Riddler and he was sticking those things on people's foreheads and he was sucking out. Like, this is the perfect example. He was literally sucking the energy from people being so consumed by watching TV and taking all of their, like, intellect and taking all the information, and he was becoming this, like, monster. And that's kind of how I feel about what these entities are. Like, we are in a constant state of being programmed. And again, it kind of leads back into the compassion for people because they don't know what they don't know. And, you know, if all you're seeing is something and then someone comes in, swoops in with like, hey, you know, love and peace, they're like, who the hell are you?
Right.
You know, but that's where people who are, you know, projecting this outward love for others, they have to stay true in themselves and kind of shield themselves from, you know, being attacked from these negative kind of forces.
And also just to be more aware of yourself and the energy that you put out, because you don't want to put out some bad energy that affects someone else. And, you know, because that's the last thing I want to do is ever hurt someone.
Right.
You know? Yeah. So just be aware of what you put out. People are going to feel that.
And be yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Be
act
yourself.
as anybody.
Yeah, and
your true authentic self.
A lot of people too get trapped in, you know, if something bad happens to them from like an outside person or a circumstance, they take it so personally that they get, you know, defensive back, and like the energy that that other person or that other circumstance is giving you, a lot of people tend to give it right back, but that's taking the life force out of you to react in a way that is not in peace and not in love and not in joy. And that's where people kind of have that downward digression.
Yeah.
From, you know, leaving their true beauty, leaving their true essence of light, and just not letting outward things affect them. It's so important to like have such a strong mentality, a strong heart, and a strong being to not let these kind of things like hurt you, because a lot of people, including myself, take things personally.
It's hard not to. As a human, it's an automatic thing you do.
Yeah.
So to try to separate yourself from that ultimately is, you know, it's a strength that I feel like a lot of people should.
Instead of getting instead of being defensive, just have some empathy.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's
a reason
automatic
they're coming
to be
off
defensive
towards you like that.
Right.
So if you give them empathy, it's almost like you're not giving them what they want, which is like defense. Instead, you're like, I'm so sorry.
It's like you're de-escalating without having to try.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's many people that I've met too when, you know, they would say something and I would just kind of look at them dead in the eye and with silence, and then they would break, like you just said, Mike. They would just break because they're so used to people being, coming at them too because of what they're giving. But deep down, these people are literally they're crying out for help.
They are.
They're crying out for help, and I think
that's the only way they can show it sometimes.
Is through anger, because that's all they know. So again, like holding compassion for people. You know, when you're out and about and someone's having a bad day, like you don't know. Like I saw a picture the other day on social media of like a highway of cars, and each car had a little line over it, like this person just got back from the hospital, they had their first kid. This person's driving to the airport to go to college. This person just got broken up with. This person's going through a divorce right now. This person just won the lottery. Like, we don't know what is going on in people's lives. And I feel like that is such a huge thing that people need to sit with. That, like, if someone pisses you off,
take a second.
Just take a second.
Because I am very, it's very hard for me to not react to something. So sometimes you just need to take a second and breathe before you say anything. You know, some people just automatically, it's like word vomit. And what comes out could be completely offensive. You didn't even mean it in the slightest.
Yeah.
So just think, you know, to take a second. Or don't say anything at all.
And I feel like that's where drinking kind of comes into play too. Like in my 20s, you know, people would be talking to me. I would talk to literally anyone. And, you know, when you're like kind of going back and forth with certain people and you're combating or you butt heads with people, like that's where I feel like it slips out the most. And a lot of people are like losing their jobs. They're losing their relationships with people because they are in such a state of like misery and sorrow because of what they said when they were drinking or what they did. They went and they drove home drunk and got a DUI, like,
or killed someone.
I mean, like, and that's where, you know, like these substances, like a lot of people are dealing with substance abuse, and it's so important to like just continue, if whatever journey you're on, stay in your lane, but hold compassion, I would say, is like the biggest thing for so many people. And coming out here to reset, you know, no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. None of us are perfect. We're gonna slip up. There's gonna be things, and that's the human experience.
Exactly.
Is like these people are posting these videos about how to like live your best life, which is great, you know,
but that's not for everyone.
But it's not realistic in all contexts. Like,
it's not attainable for most people, right? You know,
Right. Yeah.
So just find your own happiness, whatever that may be. For me, for us, clearly, it was coming out in nature and hearing nothing.
Yeah. Nothing. It just the wind in the trees and, you know, the turkeys walking.
And the turkeys.
They're around here somewhere. They're around here somewhere.
Christy Henahan, if you watch this, I found your brethren.
Yeah, it's so nice to have you guys down here, and I'm, you know, grateful, you know, to have you both in my life. Like, they came down, and, you know, I'm so used to, you know, entertaining people in a way where, you know, it's all about partying. And it's just immediately when you're with each other, all right, where are we going to, you know, go get a drink and all this stuff. And then, like, they came down here, and we were talking about, like, our goals and talking about some real, you know,
business opportunities, what we want to do, where we see ourselves,
what's going on in our heads, what's going on in our hearts. And
those are the conversations you need to have with your friends.
Yeah. Friends need to start speaking up. If you're not doing okay, reach out to someone.
Say something.
And cut out the people that are telling you not to
cut out the toxic crap.
Yeah.
Cut out all
We're
that
too
shit.
old for that.
It's like cancer. You let that shit stay in there, it'll fuck you up. It doesn't
It'll
matter
spread
how great
to each
you are,
part of
it'll
your
come to
body.
you.
Yep.
Exactly.
You got to surround yourself with a group of people that are going to inspire you, also tell you when you're full of shit,
and support you all the way.
Support you all the way. Exactly.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of times where I've said a great idea in my mind, but my marketer would be like, "What the fuck are you thinking? That wouldn't even work." And it's like you have to have that truth teller in your squad, because at the end of the day, he's there to make you better, right? And that's just how it is. You need to surround yourself around people that are always going to look at you, see what you're trying to do, and try and figure out a plan to get you to where you need to be. Because there's so many people that want to keep you down here.
Right.
You need a good support system.
And actually, Mike, from your point of view, you know, as a man, you know, how do you feel like you pick up on, you know, seeing through these kind of people? Like, who do you know in your life that is like, if it's someone comes up to you, you just know right away, like, I don't feel like they're going to be the best kind of fit for me, because now we're in our 30s. It's a lot different than when we were in our 20s. When we're meeting people, we're so like
meeting everyone.
Everyone, we're so welcome and open to people.
And
so
we don't necessarily care
as a
what they're
man,
hiding.
how do you like kind of deal with that?
Coming from a very spiritual mother, I've always had a good sense of vibe and being able to understand people before I even actually talk to them. So I think it all comes down to body language, and then obviously their attitude towards what your goals are. If they're very supportive, if they're very like about it, or if they want to join you, that's a good sign.
They're just shitting on
if
it.
They're kind of like, if they're kind of like over here, like, oh, that's not a good idea. I don't think you should do that. Maybe you should do this, or da 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 da. You can kind of get that vibe that they're like intimidated by your idea because they don't want you to do it.
They don't want you to succeed.
Yeah. It's about reading people.
Those kinds of friends.
Yeah, and I think the way that they, you know, talk about life too, it's just the way that their attitude is in general about. You know, how they talk about their personal life. If someone is so doom and gloom all the time,
it's a dark cloud over your head.
It's a dark cloud,
and that spreads to everyone.
Yeah, it's contagious.
It makes you sad almost when you're with them. You're like,
and if it's all the time, because you know we've all been there. We've all been in bad. You know, we've all been in bad shape before. And I think that's, you know, like a determining factor of like you have to use your empathy in a way, because you don't want to just cut people out immediately because. You know, they're not there yet mentally. Maybe
sorry, your vibe's not on point. We're not friends anymore.
We're not friends anymore because you said this. But, you know, I think it's, you know, again, I feel like this video is, the word compassion just keeps coming back to me. And, you know, you can hold compassion for a lot of people, but like Mike just stated, you know, you have to really feel it out with people. And
before
you know,
give them everything,
right? Because and you know, keep yourself in a place.
You gotta protect yourself too,
where you're not giving your all. And at first, like when you're dating someone, even like it all ties together in any relationship. But when you're first dating someone, you don't just tell them everything about you.
It's boundaries,
because it's boundaries and respect for yourself. And I feel like a lot of people get so excited. I've been there before where I just get so I'm like, oh, I just met someone and blah, 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 blah. Even like a friend.
Tell me everything.
Tell me everything. And you don't know what their intentions are because, you know, you could feel to an extent of like, okay, I kind of like their vibe. We'll see how this goes. But, you know, if they're not there mentally where you are you going to just completely cut them out? Right. Or are you going to, you know, continue feeling it through and
or help them along the way?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, because if, you know, there's maybe something I'm stuck on, you can help me.
Exactly.
And then if you're stuck on something, I can help you.
Exactly. Like if I'm feeling 10% and I'm not feeling it today, like, I would want you to pick up the 90% for me today that I'm not feeling, vice versa.
Yeah.
Like, I'll pick up the slack if you're not feeling it.
Right.
You know, and that's what friends do. It's always a constant. You guys need to keep helping each other. If you're not feeling it, okay, I will be the strong one today.
Yes,
you know?
exactly.
And that comes with relationships too.
Yeah,
like, if I'm not feeling it, Michael, I need you to kind of help me get back up, you know?
Yep. It's a team effort.
It is.
Yeah, holding space for people to, like, you know, asking the questions. Like, if you can sense that someone is not in the best way, ask the question, hey, do you need anything? Are you feeling okay?
Good.
No, I'm not okay. I need some space. Like, speaking up on what you want, because a lot of people, you know, when someone, are you okay? Oh, no, I'm totally fine. Totally fine. And then that person ends up going out of their comfort zone and they do things that they actually don't really want to do. This people-pleasing concept. You know, oh my gosh, I've done that so many times where I'm like, I really don't want to go out, but I did it anyway. And I come back feeling like even worse because I pushed myself on the boundaries that I knew deep in my heart I didn't want to do. So, you know, speaking up on what you want, you can say no. A lot of people nowadays.
I'm an advocate for that. I should have people pleaser on my forehead. And sometimes you have to say no.
Just say no.
I know that word is scary, but no.
Boundaries.
Yeah.
You just have to say no sometimes.
Right.
For your own self. You might feel icky about it afterwards, being a people pleaser. You guys will understand, but just do it.
Yes. It's okay to, you know, hold respect for yourself. A lot of people, you know, are afraid to speak up because they're, you know, they don't want to put the vibe down. Like, if your group of friends is saying, like, well, we want you to come out.
Yeah, oh, you downer. The word, like, oh, like, you're not gonna be the fun one.
Oh, you don't want to come out. And then because they rely, you know, and if they get so defensive, this is something that I've noticed, you know, if people get super defensive that you don't want to come out, that's generally because they expect you to be like the entertainer. Yeah. And they take it so personally because when you're not there, they have to pick up the slack.
Exactly.
They have to pick up the slack because, you know, like, you know, you and me both. Like, we have this.
I mean,
you know,
we're a hoot when we're drunk. Don't get us wrong, but I mean, you know, you got to say no.
You're allowed to say no.
You are allowed. It's you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially like with, you know, my personal journey. I'm alcohol free. You know, I still, you know, I have my plant medicine allies that I practice with, you know, Mary J, you know, she's a good friend of mine, but, you know, without...
We're cousins.
We're cousins. But, you know, not drinking has really brought that perspective into my mind of like, wow, like I was going out and I'm sitting here entertaining people and I'm giving so much energy to other people that I come back and I just always felt so bad. Yeah. Like I felt so tired. Yeah. Because you're giving and just not saying no.
And also, you know, you surround yourself with people where you don't always have to constantly entertain them. Like, you can sit in comfortable silence. It doesn't drain your social battery to be with your best friend. Like, it shouldn't, you know? Like, I could sit with you all day and just like this. It'd be perfectly content.
Staring out in the woods.
You know, it doesn't drain me. If anything, it recharges my battery.
Right.
You know?
Comfortable silence.
Surround yourself with those type of people.
Absolutely.
And if you're trying to have a successful career, you got to conserve some of that energy. You can't just be giving it all to everybody, right? You got to conserve some of it for yourself and what you're trying to do.
Ultimately, protect yourself at the core along the way of spreading love.
Yeah, you have to
positive.
Within it, you only have so much time in a day, and there's only so much energy you can expand in that day, so you got to make the most of it. If you don't, you're just taking a step backwards. Yeah. You got to make every day.
Well, then you're just going to be drained every day, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point, Mike, because, you know, a lot of people, you know, they are so stuck in this mentality of, like, when we were in our early 20s, like, always hanging out with people.
Always.
And when you start pulling away, and they notice that, well, why aren't you hanging out? And then they almost make you feel bad again, going back into that, like, and you stating no. And if your friend, however they respond, and if they're okay with that, like, oh, okay, well, just let me know next time you're free. Yeah. Those are my kind of people.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're understanding. They know. And they're also, just because you're a friend doesn't mean you can demand someone to hang out and get pissed if they don't.
Yeah.
You're not entitled to their time, you know? And no one is. So do what is more comfortable with you, what you want to do.
Yeah.
And don't always have to be a people pleaser. Say that again. You don't always have to be a people pleaser.
Is there anything that, like, for an example for you that has been like a people-pleasing thing that it just makes you, I mean, like, that you are now opened your eyes to, or are you willing to, you know, state a story or an example?
I mean, just in general of going out to the bars or going out, like, I've noticed myself over the years not going out as much. There was never a no. You want to go to the bar, it was automatically a yes. Now, 80% is a no. 20% is here and there going to the bars and going out. I am now comfortable saying, I'm not going out tonight. And I feel nothing about it afterwards. I'm like, that's it. That's the end of the story. There's no temptation. There's no nothing.
Right.
Sometimes you just have to, like, almost practice saying no.
Yeah. To friends, family, you know.
Family is a big one. Families aren't entitled either, just because they're blood. They make you a certain type of way. You should tell them how they, you know, you feel.
Exactly. Yeah, and you know, the big takeaway again is, like, there's so much happening in today's world. A lot of us are dealing with, you know, trauma. A lot of people are dealing with losing their jobs right now. I mean, there's so much happening. So again, like, if there's a takeaway from this, it would be to hold compassion for others, but, you know, holding yourself with boundaries and self-respect, where you're able to say no. You're able to, you know, hold your own. If someone, you know, comes at you in a certain way, like, just being in your peace. Because once you give up your peace, you're giving away your life force energy. And, you know, you're feeding this darkness that is, like, trying to envelop us as human beings, to program us, to make us feel like everything is, you know, haywire. Like, there's no good in the world. Nothing good is happening. It's all fear. And that's the state of mind that we're...
Yesterday, that podcast saying, if you're always going to be in that woe is me state, that's all that's going to come to you.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. If you project fear always, if you're, like, for me, like, in the video, my takeaway from it was, like, I was scared to look at my bank account. I was always scared to look at my bank account. And
We've all been there.
Oh, God.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Or even when you print it, like, get your receipt out, like, do you want to see your balance? I'm like, nope. No, absolutely not. And I now am shaping my relationship with money a little bit differently, because I'm getting in my own way. If I really want to get something done, I will make damn sure that I do everything possible to step out of my comfort zone, to get to a point where I feel a healthy relationship with money.
Yeah.
So, like what you were just saying, the more you put out into the world, you will receive it back. That is the duality of life. Everything is a duality, the yin and the yang, the light and the dark, the sun and the moon. I
always
hope
a balance. People
can understand that what your thoughts are, you will become. So what are you thinking about today? And when intrusive thoughts come in, how are you able to, you know, make that switch so that you're not getting so lost in it that it shapes the rest of your day into misery, or in sadness and depression? Because once you start identifying with these intrusive, like, bang, bang, bang thoughts, you will end up, you know, being that energy of what it's giving you.
And don't limit yourself. As Ford said, whether believe you can or you can't, you're right.
Exactly. Yes. I love that quote.
Me too.
I love that.
It's really ultimately true, because you are your own worst enemy, you know, at times.
Right. So holding compassion for yourself, you know, feeling, okay, where are these blockages coming up in my body? Like, what is triggering me throughout the day? Okay, trigger here. Where does this come from? Where does it stem from? You know, even in, you know,
find
today's
a source.
You know, with medicine, the pharmaceutical companies, they're just giving you stuff to mask what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
So we are our own medicine. If we are able to find the triggers that happen with, you know, outside sources, or maybe your body is telling you something, you know, especially as you know, are getting older, get to the root cause. The root cause that, you know, you are able to feel into, because if you don't feel it, you will never get over it. You will never get past that hump, and that relationship with that trauma, or that relationship with this darkness, it will always be darkness, and you won't be able to forge that connection of, like, okay, this happened.
Don't make it your identity.
It's tough, but you have to come one with that darkness to show it light, show it that you see it, you feel it. The blockages will come up. You're like, okay, I'm starting to feel the blocks. Where are they coming up? I'm coming one with it. I'm recognizing it. I do not identify with it.
Exactly.
And once you unblock yourself, the abundance will start flowing in your life.
And how much freer you feel. Just like it's literally a physical weight.
Yeah, lifted. Because it is. It's an energy block in your body, in your chakras.
Energies are heavy.
And if you're not freeing yourself from the mental blocks and mental chains that you're putting in yourself, then you will forever be chained.
Yep.
And it'll be the shackles that run your entire life. But you know, I'm so happy again. Thanks, Mike and Jordyn, for
of course,
being able to talk
it's an honor
about this kind of stuff, because I think it's extremely important for friends to start talking about this.
Friends need to talk with friends. Point blank. Period.
Yeah. Stop
about
talking
the hard
about
stuff. Who cares? Get the hard stuff out.
We don't need to be talking about other people. We need to talk about ourselves,
our
and
goals,
how we can heal.
How we can make make each other better. You know, always bettering ourselves.
Yeah. Giving space for each other to heal.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Any takeaways for you guys? Mike, you want to start? Just live.
Not at all.
Just
be positive, be at peace, and honestly, go outside, take your shoes off, just feel the grass, feel the dirt.
Touch
even
some
just for fun, touch some grass,
touch
eat
some
it,
grass.
put it up your nose. I mean, just be in nature for at least 5 minutes. Do it 5 minutes a day. Ohio's a little different. Maybe you can just build a little igloo.
And manifestation is real. You got to believe in it. Manifest the life you want. And you need to say that to yourself every day, because there's going to be days that you don't want to manifest that life. Sometimes it's too hard. Sometimes you're too lazy. Sometimes you're too tired. But you have to keep that in mind. Manifestation is real. I manifested my life, and it's going great.
Yes. Amen. Amen to that. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm sure I'll have these two back, on the channel another time. But yeah, comment, what you think, what your takeaway was from this video, or maybe speak up about what's going on in your life, what's holding
anything you
back.
want to add, please.
Absolutely. We'd love to see it. Yeah, get outside.
Get outside.
Talk with your friends. Talk to yourself.
Get outside.
Talk to yourself and go
on
get.
Go
on get.